But welcome to the Responsive Conference 2025 recap and reflections, carrying the energy forward. The Culture First community collaborated with Responsive again for the second year in a row, and we had lots of our community members attend and learn amazing things. And I'm so grateful that Mika inspired this conversation for us to have. So thank you, Mika. If we haven't met, my name is Jessie Jacob. I am one of the Culture First community managers at Culture Amp, helping oversee our global chapters programs. Some of our chapter leads are on here today, like Mika and Hank, and so excited that they're here. These are wonderful humans who are volunteering to host experiences all around the world, in person and virtual, about creating a better world of work. And then our other host, Robin Zander, the executive director of Responsive Conference. I'm so grateful that you collabed with us on this and excited for you to share what is Responsive Conference, how you started all of this, why you started all of this, and also just like how we can talk about our some learnings from this year, which was incredible. So thanks for being here, Robin. Greatly
Absolutely.
appreciate
I'm so glad to be here with everybody.
it. Okay, our purpose today is to keep the momentum going from Responsive Conference, whether you attended or not. You'll get to hear from people that attended, and hopefully that inspires your action and to change the way that we work and how we work. So, if you can't already tell, our missions are very aligned with Responsive Conference and Culture First. So, we'll do a little check-in. We'll hear reflections from attendees. We'll open it up to just like everyone to join and have a conversation. Again, keeping this very casual. And then we'll talk about how we can put our learning into action. And then we'll close and get out of here. If this is your first Culture First community gathering, we're a group of people around the world united in the shared belief that a better world of work is possible. And by golly, we are willing to do something about it. We, at this point now, have over 100 global chapters in 80 different cities. We have 20,000 community members just in our chapters program. We host over 300 events a year, hosted by roughly over 150 volunteer chapter leads around the globe. So this is just a one piece of a much bigger movement that we are that you all are a part of. So we have five core principles that I'm going to ask you all to embody during our time together. The first one's around fostering belonging and acceptance. We're not going to agree on everything, but this idea of like how can we create a sense of people feeling seen, valued, heard, and appreciated, and for just showing up and being themselves. We ask that you have the willingness to reflect and grow. If we're on this mission to transform the future of work, that actually starts with us being the change we want to see in the world. And that's definitely going to come up, I think, is a big theme from Responsive Conference as well. So, you being willing to change, what can you do as a result of transforming the future of work? We ask that you have the courage to be vulnerable. We're constantly wearing masks, labels, belonging badges, whatever you want to call it. And so, if we can own more of those identifiers, it gives other people to be more of themselves so we can be more psychologically safe and build more trust on this journey together. We ask that you put your learning into action. The entire purpose of today is like, how can we take what we've learned and implement it into the way that we're working, into the way that we're living, and rather than just like consuming content in one ear and out the other. And then the last principle is connection inside, business outside, which is just a fun way of saying that in the context of this container, we ask that you connect on the inside first as a human being. And if that leads to us doing business later outside of the context of this gathering, that's cool. But like hardcore sales and networking is not the primary purpose. We're here to learn and grow and do this work together. So, can I have a thumbs up, either emoji reaction or like in the camera, whatever in the chat that you can agree to these? Amazing. Thank you. Okay. Give us a little thumbs up if you attended Responsive Conference, either in the chat or in your whatever in your screen. Okay. Okay, only a couple people. Maya, did you attend? Yes, Maya. Okay. So Maya, Mika, great.
Oh, very
I
sad, Hank.
know, Hank. Okay, if you Maya and Mika drop a little emoji in the chat to describe your Responsive Conference experience. I want to see what you got for us. Oh, cute. Blush.
That's
Adorable.
mostly just the safari animals.
Yeah.
That
And
that that
neither,
was that
yes.
was that was the reaction when you're holding the armadillo.
Exactly. I love it.
Uh,
Okay, great. Now, okay, we're gonna try this new thing that I have. Well, it's not new, but it's something I'm reusing. I haven't used this app in a while, but it's called Pickles. And I would love if you'd scan this QR code on your phone and draw something to describe your work week. You could also just write a word, whatever you want. And I'm gonna share a different screen here so we can see them all coming in. Great. All right, so if you scan that QR code, you should be able to, on your phone, you should be able to draw a little doodle, and then we should be able to see one another's stuff. So I'm gonna start this now.
oh no, that pumpkin face. I'm gonna make believe that that green face is a jack-o'-lantern and not somebody's like was attacked by zombies. Got somebody else's hair on fire and the heart.
Oh, anyone want to come and share? Anyone want to come off mute and share? Just share a little bit about their drawing. You don't have to, but it looks like we have a question and a thought bubble. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Is that someone's like smiling with their tongue out? I don't know. I feel the like straight face line, like just I feel that. Yeah, sideways.
I want to start a new one and I don't know how to draw a jewelry heist, but like I'm fascinated by the heist at the Louvre today. I'm like that was exactly like I'm not French, right? So I'm like not deeply attached to these jewels being stolen. And if you don't know, there was a major heist on Sunday at the Louvre. 88 million dollar or euros worth of and like precious French jewelry.
Wow.
I'm like, that was exactly the distraction from work and the state of the world that I needed. I just want to go read the book, right? Like, I'd love to hear, Jesse, if you don't mind me asking, like anyone
Yeah,
here who
go.
wants to share something from one of your emojis, right? Like, tell us what your emoji means a little bit.
Totally, please. Hi, Sarah Ginky, by the way.
Hey, I'm in the car driving.
No problem. I like someone wrote great life little. Where'd it go? Here we go. Hi, Kim. No one wants to
I
share
would
their. Oh,
say
Amika's like, okay.
I'm happy to share. Oh yeah, I can hear me. I would say I tried to write full of possibilities. I feel like this week was really full of possibilities for me about things I can do to just make the world a better, like make the world of work a better place. So very, very aligned, but through our leaders. So by helping equip leaders, and that's something I took away from responsive too, that what leaders want and how to really equip them. So it was fun.
Yes.
Nice.
So, oh my gosh, full of possibilities. Love that. Also, can I just like a little moment of reflection with Mika at the first time really getting to like hang out with her at Responsive Conference, and by the time we finished the 2 days together or 3 days together, at one point Mika was like, "Well, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to like? Okay, well, I'm gonna help you with that. I got you. I'm gonna support you." And it would like, I was like, "Oh wow, it feels nice to be supported by people that I'm supposed to be supporting." Like as a chapter lead, I feel like I'm constantly wanting to like support the chapter lead's professional development. So it was like I'm very grateful for you that I was like, "Oh, thank you." Um, okay. Anyone else want to share their reflections on what they drew? Robin knew that was fire on my head.
Yeah, somebody's hair is on Hank's hair is on fire.
No Christopher's.
Christopher's hair is on fire. That's right.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you for humoring me with this new tool. It's called Pickles. It's something it's free as well in case you're wanting to explore other tools if you're leading things with your team. Okay, over to you, Robin.
Yeah, for sure. It's so fun actually to be here with you all because Culture Amp, I don't even know if you know this, Jesse, played a big role in my early days of Responsive. So what is Responsive? Before it was an annual conference on the future of work, which I started in 2016, it was a movement about describing the challenges facing work. The URL is responsive.org. And it was written by 6 different entrepreneurs and org design nerds in 2014 and 2015, maybe in the spirit of the Agile Manifesto, if you're familiar with that, but as a statement piece about the way the world is changing, right? This is
Ayo, it's your
2015.
girl, Jessie.
And we need to adapt our organizations. The ways we've worked in the last several hundred years aren't the ways that are going to work for organizations in the 21st century. That was the point of it. And I am not an OD consultant. I've never been a CPO, right? I'm mostly a professional dilettante, aka a professional entrepreneur, and have been doing that entrepreneurship thing for about 15 years now. Grew up in my dad's small business, opened up a restaurant in San Francisco with no restaurant experience in 2016 and sold it on the internet in Craigslist 3 years later. Was an acrobat with the San Francisco Opera. I've worked in a lot of different worlds that had seemingly nothing to do with each other. And what I found in all of those worlds is that there are silos and people, and it's politics. You put more than 3 people in a room together and you get politics. And the ways that these organizations work, right? San Francisco Opera, right? I had the privilege of performing as an acrobat, for example, was absolutely amazing. Doing backflips on stage in front of thousands of people at the War Memorial Opera House in San Francisco was incredible. And yet, the back end of how that organization has worked for 150 years is, as you would imagine, a nonprofit funded by very rich, wealthy families that want to see opera. Like, there were dysfunctions upon dysfunctions upon dysfunctions. And so when I read this manifesto, my sensation was like, oh, people like me do things like this. And so I started getting to know folks. And one of the authors of Responsive Org was an early employee at Culture Amp. So this was back when Culture Amp was about 15 people, Steve Hopkins. And I got to meet Didier, the CEO and one of the founders of Culture Amp, in that very early kind of messy period when the authors had just written this manifesto and kind of put it out to the world. But it resonated with lots of people, and including me. I asked what I could do to help. And Steve Hopkins, Shopkins, as he's known or was known at Culture Amp, said you should run an unconference. And I said, great, I'll go do that. What's an unconference, right? And he was very patient and said, like, oh, it's an event that is run by the people who show up, and whatever you talk about is great, and whoever is there is great, and you're not trying to control it, and you're not selling tickets, and you're not having famous speakers on stage, as much fun as that can be sometimes, but you're just curating for the people who are interested. And I did that in early 2016, expecting, my mother and my roommate to show up and that about it, because I didn't have a network. But we put the word out, and in the Bay Area and beyond, we had 300 people show up at my then roommate's office in downtown San Francisco. People who were CHROs of name brand companies and people who were working at Three Stone Hearth, is a catering company in Berkeley that's been around 40 years, that's employee owned and operated with no managers. So we really did reach this people from different silos coming together and sharing ideas and talking about weird nuanced stuff in 2016, right? Employee compensation strategies, remote and distributed work, right? At that event and after that event, I realized there was an appetite for this conversation about the future of work and how we can work better together, because I firmly believe that given how much time we spend working, and I'm really fortunate that I tend to enjoy a lot of the work that I do. My day job, by the way, is not Responsive Conference. I run an agency called Zander Media that does storytelling for startups, but that's not really relevant. But the the work that we do when done joyfully and when done in collaboration, right? It's the reason all of us are here, can be so much better than one of my early bosses in late high school, early college routinely threw things at his employee's head, right? Like throwing, erasers at, like, I don't, you said something stupid, right? Like And we've all seen versions of that, right? I guess I'm 39. I've seen the pendulum swing enough now where like DE&I has had several rebounds in both directions. Remote and distributed work has had several rebounds in both directions. And this idea of a pendulum or a tension that organizations have always struggled with, but we're moving more quickly between those pendulum angles now than ever before, I think, in human history. So anyway, I'll keep it short. 2016 ran the very first responsive conference at the Lawrence Hall of Science in the Berkeley Hills. Back to being a performer. I didn't rent, a ballroom that was an event center. I looked for unusual venues. Years 2 and 3, we were at the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens, 200 years homage to film and photography in Queens, New York. We were hosted by Tony Hsieh, rest in peace, and Zappos on the Zappos campus in downtown Las Vegas in 2019, shut down for COVID and came back in 2024. We're at the Oakland Museum of California, and it's a 2-day event for about 300 people. We cap really at 275, and it's a chance that we gather together and create the experience that we want to work on. We want to explore together. We want to learn together, right? I've been very fortunate to be supported by some world famous speakers. Got to be friends with Tony Hsieh before his death, and folks like Chris Fussell, who wrote Team of Teams about special operations in the Iraq War. But it really is just that belief that you bring a group of people together and share ideas, and you get so much more than any one person or small group can do by themselves.
I love this. Okay, Robin, tell us about any. Oh, also, we had a couple of
Yeah.
things here
Well,
too.
no, I mean, I think I touched on that, but it's this sense of like it's not a sit and absorb conference in the same way that I don't know about you all, but I don't learn best by sitting and absorbing myself. I mean, even when Jessie and I were planning this, like this is the most I'm going to speak, and then I'm gonna right. But it's participatory. Work done well is participatory. Learning done well is not sitting like I did in 4th grade and listen to the person in the front of the class lecture us for an hour or 3. It's like what is the work of exploration, right? We had safari animals at Responsive 2025, right? We're at an immersive venue because those are the things that give an experience. And so I just have been rereading Will Guidara's Unreasonable Hospitality, and this idea of like we all have power in our workplaces to create these little moments of difference that inspire, right, the kind of change that we want work to embody. And that's really what I think of when I think of work or responsive conference or this community, right? Is like how do we take those tiny steps towards the work that we want in the world?
Ooh, I'm already taking things away from this, which is unreasonable hospitality. I'm like,
Oh,
ooh,
absolutely
sounds
great
right up
book.
my
Yeah.
alley.
Yeah. I'll drop the link in. If you want to go to the next slide,
Yes.
quick note that Jessie and I were discussing. One of the things that I really was striving for at Responsive this year and think a lot about, I had the pleasure of working with Professor BJ Fogg at Stanford for several years, the author of Tiny Habits, which is a great book about behavior change if you're interested. His whole premise is keep it small, right? If you're trying to start a new habit or if you're trying to change the direction of your organization, what's the first next step? And so today, but also it's something we really emphasize at Responsive, is not this grandiose vision of a completely new organization, but what is in your organization or in your business or in your consulting, what's that tiny little iteration based on where you are now that is in the direction of where you want to go? And so that's my invitation for you as we go through this session today. And if you'll go to the next slide, please, Jessie. I invited everyone on stage at the beginning of Responsive Conference this year to come away with what we think of as a 3-2-1, 3 new people, 2 new ideas, and 1 new tactic, right? It's if that's it, that's the goal, right? If you have 2 new ideas that can change and influence how you work for the next year, like that's huge, right? We're not trying to turn the ship around in a day. We're trying to come up with a little new baby step. And so my invitation for you as we keep going forward today is how do we look for those tiny actions that can have a trickle down effect?
I love this, and I definitely want to hear from Mika and Maya as well, if you are willing to share your thoughts and like learnings and things like that from the conference. So I feel like what we do from here is we should spend some time with people who attended and have them share their what's still resonating, what they learned, maybe even share their 3, 2, 1. And then we can open it up to the rest of the group for an open discussion. So um, I'm happy to go first too, just to like kick us off. Well, first of all, Robin did an amazing job designing a really thoughtful, accessible, and inclusive experience. And as someone who like aims to strive for that, I was just like in awe. I was like, yes, like everything around like the way that the conference was started and having music playing at the end of the day with like a really unique instrument like helped my nervous system relax. And there was lots of like opportunities for like somatic kind of experiences. And then there was time for unconferencey things where it's like there is no necessarily like script or framework or thing to talk about. It's just kind of like wherever we feel like this group needs to go, which I really appreciated. But some of the things that are still resonating for me, the opening keynote was around navigating uncertainty with Simone Stilzoff. And I really loved his session. It was talking about how like there are 4 things you need, which is like find your anchors to navigate uncertainty, like have the things, aspects of your life and your business that are constant amidst all the different changes and like know what those anchors are. And I loved that. He talked about like building to learn. This idea of like what's a time bound low cost experiment that can teach you what you're hoping to learn. So I really, and then the third one was around trusting your future self to solve your problems. What's something that's causing you stress that you have no power or influence? So reminding yourself that like future Jessie's got this, like she can figure anything out. One of my like little internal kind of affirmations has been like everything's figure outable. Like I may not have all the answers, but that's okay. I'm going to take action anyway, and I'll just like figure it out. And then the fourth learning from Simone was around like choosing curiosity over fear. And he told this story of like, I don't know, maybe some of you have heard it, where it's like, maybe yes, maybe no, we'll see. And so how quick we are to like tell us ourselves a story about what's about to happen. And he's like, yeah, but maybe yes, maybe not, we'll see. Like, so I've been thinking a lot about that. Another theme that I heard was around politics was a really big theme of this year's conference, which Robin kind of started to talk about how like the DEI pendulum especially has swung. And I think we're a lot of organizations after the murder of George Floyd had strong stances on um, a lot of things around social justice and politics. And now we're seeing organizations kind of like Homer Simpson into the hedge and like are like, we're not going to say anything, or like kind of defaulting. And to me, we know that politics and work are intertwined and they will never not be. And so it's unrealistic to say that they will be. And so um something that I've been thinking about is like how when can we have the privilege to choose where we work and how and the values, like what are we have to do the inner work of like what are our values, and then are those aligned with the organizations, and then do we have the privilege in order to make the choice to work at these organizations. And I know that that's very challenging right now, especially with folks job hugging and feeling a sense of fear about losing their income and all of those things. So but that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And then there was a lot of themes around like joy and play and somatics and creativity. And Brie Groff came and talked about joy at work. And so she shared a lot of these like fun little micro habit things that you can do with your team. Like Robin was talking about, late night art came and facilitated a really wonderful session. And I think what my kind of like prediction into the future is that we're using all these Gen AI tools in order to like help us work smarter and not harder and all that stuff. But it's like killing us on the inside with our creativity. And I think that we're going to see like a modern day renaissance where like the arts are going to come back like even more full force of like we need to have like it's already kind of starting to happen, or like there's like people that are like trying to make it happen. Um, but I think that we're going to see like a massive pendulum swing into just like very unstructured, creative ways of solving our problems and really appreciating the arts in a different way, in a different light after we have like used all these tools to automate a bunch of things. Um, and then the last thing was just like being humans messy, but it's the way. And Elder Jackson the third came and spoke. And one of the things I love, which was like hurt people hurt people. Yeah, but healed people heal people. And if we actually see people for who they truly are, then we can have a different world. And he had us reflect on like, when have you been treated unfairly and unkindly? And then he had you reflect on, okay, but when did you treat someone unfairly and unkindly? And then like, getting your ego wrapped up into that. And he's like, we've all done it. We've all been treated unfairly and unkindly. We've also treated others unfairly and unkindly. So like, how might we just approach with more curiosity and seeing people for who they actually are? So anyway, those were all of those kind of three categories are still resonating for me. But I will stop talking and I will hand it off to Mika and Maya if you're willing to share.
Mika, you want to go first?
Go ahead, Maya. Okay, I'll go first. And I am totally blanking on the name, so apologies, but there was a speaker who talked about the role of AI a little bit more in lives, and that AI is very good at the basic things, but the creativity and the context is what brings AI to life. And that really stuck with me, especially since our organization is looking to drive efficiencies through AI, and it's a little bit bigger of a push. So that really stuck with me. A couple other themes that stuck with me was vulnerability and play. Those were throughout the entire conference. And you even felt it when you went into unconferences or I had one-on-one conversations with people. So Robin, just, those that came through. And I feel like you would be happy about that. Now, when I think about my work, I work a lot with leaders and executive coaching development programs within my organization. And the thing that really stuck out to me that I'm playing with is how to teach people to be vulnerable in a place where they may not have been safe in the past. So I'm really framing my coaching, my executive consulting that it turns into how can we solve this creatively? How can we ask questions? And what does failure really look like? Those are the questions that I'm now asking because oftentimes when we don't want to be vulnerable, we're scared of failure. Well, what is that? And at this conference, I didn't feel like I could fail. And I want to bring that back to each and every person I work with. So they're very philosophical, squishy ideas, but I've seen the power in it. I actually facilitated a conversation between leaders about what it looks like to lead in their department. And the vice president was in the room, the vice president's peer was in the room, and they came up with some new innovative ideas about how to lead their teams. They also asked questions they've been scared to ask about expectations. So it was described as transformative. Mind you, I just asked questions, but they felt like it transformed them. And that was partly because of Simone's conference. It was partly because of the play. It was partly because of the creative problem solving. So I just wanted to call out that I'm using it in my everyday practice, and it's great. So that's what I took away.
Amazing.
I'm all about tactical practice. I love philosophy, but if you can't apply it, it's a little bit useless. So I've been playing and it's been good. Maya, I will pass it to you.
That was, I don't know if I can speak to what I took away and applied as well as you, but that was so good. I wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Jessie. I actually am so grateful for that experience. I live in LA, but when being at Responsive, I felt like I'm on my planet. Like I have arrived at this is like my planet. I found my people. I would share a few things that really stuck with me. One is designing for delight and connection. There were so many things you did or included in the conference that made it broke down the walls between people, made it easy to connect, gave us joy. I mean, animals, popsicles, music. But also just the overall vibe felt like a very warm place, and like we're actually connecting with others is a priority, and that is not often not an explicit goal for conferences. It's more like learn, fill your brain with new ideas. And so that was very meaningful to me. I felt like there were talks and experiences that were focused on kind of the meta themes of our time: uncertainty, AI, but keeping it very human. So I also loved Simone's talk about trust your future self to know how to deal with things that future problems, like just the growing comfort with uncertainty. That really struck me. Another theme that really resonated, and there were a couple of them, his talk and Brie Goff, that's one of the reasons I came, because I really love her work, was around just sort of rethinking our relationship with work. Like, even if you're very purposeful and intentional around work, which I am, it's not everything. It's not your whole life. The experimentation with formats, like that was the first time I'd done an unconference. That was really great. And I, as someone who creates experiences, I really appreciated that. Both models for things you could use when it's a smaller group, and also models for larger scale events and experiences. So innovating on the format was important. And I wanted to just call out, I did late night art, and I'd actually been introduced to Adam before I came through a friend. And that was so badass. I mean, I really was not only experiencing it, but looking at how they facilitated it, the way they designed it, like it was multi-sensory, and had people, because they'd been sort of set up so beautifully, had people who just met, like crying and holding space for the other person's dreams so powerfully within 5 minutes. It was really incredible. So I had a fabulous time. And just the creativity overall, like being in a museum, being outside, having nature, trees, even like just the distance between events, like all of that was just right sized. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Maya. I shared a quote that Simone shared during his keynote that reminded me of what you shared, which is just that some people do what they love for work, others do what they have to so they can do what they love when they're not working. Neither is more noble. And I just love that, because I think oftentimes I think we're really, really, really seeing that become way more prevalent. And yeah. Anyway, hi, Casey. Welcome, welcome. Um, I know that Luca, you were there, yeah?
I was.
Would you like to share? I want to make sure we give space to anyone that attended.
Um, it was
And you're
super
welcome to
interesting.
pass too if you don't have that energy or bandwidth or whatever.
Yeah, it was just interesting. I felt like something got kicked off in me in responsive that accelerated me. I found myself at LA Tech Week, which I didn't know that was in my future when I was at the responsive conference. And I feel like the responsive conference was like some sort of warm up for um, the amount of connecting and exploration I did at LA Tech Week. And now I find myself, to being some whole other person that I think I started to believe was possible at the responsive conference. So it's interesting because I didn't know why I was going to the responsive conference when I went. I didn't have an agenda. I don't have an organization I'm working for, etc. But I just had this sense that if these are people who are thinking about how to be more whole, connective people, then I just want to be around these people. And it was truly inspirational, I think, in ways that are still ineffable, and are still unfolding for me. So I'm just incredibly grateful that this conference existed. And it's interesting. I ended up. Last thing I'll say is I ended up in a pitch competition at LA Tech Week, before I even had anything to pitch, I signed myself up for this pitch competition. And the first two lines of my, and it was a 30-second elevator pitch where I had to go inside of an elevator with a VC. And I had that, like the elevator ride to pitch. And it turns out the first two lines of my elevator pitch were completely inspired by the last session that we had, where I ask people when I'm pitching, what's the meanest thing anyone's ever done to you? And what's the meanest thing you've ever done? And I think I know I was completely incepted at Responsive to design a pitch that starts that way. So I think it was, Responsive like snuck up on me and then snuck into me. And Mika, I want to thank you for Afrotech. I was just about to book. I really literally was just about to book 2 days ago, and then I found out via LA Tech Week about Tech Disrupt in LA. So I'm actually going to go to Tech Disrupt in LA. I'm sorry, Tech Disrupt in San Francisco. But what's interesting is because of you, I'm now in this Afrotech ecosystem, and that's a whole other thing. So yeah, Responsive just snuck up on me and opened up my world, and I'm deeply grateful for it.
Amazing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Look, Robin, you have like a couple quotes that need to be on the website. Shoot. So
Yeah, you're all
good.
recording this, right?
Yes, yes, of course,
Okay,
of
cool.
course.
Yeah, feel free. Feel free.
Or wait, yes, I am. Oh, had a slight moment of like, am I? Um, Casey, hi, my friend. Would you like to share your thoughts of your experience at Responsive Conference? Oh, wait, we can't hear you. Shoot, the mic situation. Okay. Okay.
Classic personal issue here. Um, you guys hear me now? I had to run upstairs to get my notebook because I was like, I have so many notes.
I did the same.
Sorry I was late to the party. I am going through a move right now. I've got 6 weeks to move from the Bay Area to Denver. I'm crushing it, by the way. But and so my life is chaotic. But I've like taken away so much. And so I'm just flicking through these notes. And I think the book, I've got my reading list, like the pile of books that I have from the thing. And it's so funny because like I'm packing up my whole life, but there's like my like reading list. These are like some of the books I refuse to like put away from like the Responsive conference and Jenny's like the day before. These were the ones that I like won't pack in the boxes because I was like, I'm gonna read these in the next 4 weeks. I'm not, but I'm not giving up. And so they're not going in the box until the last minute. But the one that's like in my handbag that I'm carrying around is this is Brie Goff's book. Today was fun. And this book has been sticking with me because of the pendulum. Yeah. Jessie, what was I calling it? I couldn't remember what it was called.
I don't remember, but I was like, you mean a fortune teller? Or you were calling it a fortune cookie.
A fortune cookie. I was like, the fortune
You're like
cookie.
the fortune cookie. But yeah, she gave out these really cute,
Yeah.
like, day was seriously fun. And then you can like look and be like, number 5, what makes you happy in a team? And there's all these like cute little prompts. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go on.
Yeah. This like the concept of like the like pendulum that we have, and I'm a person that struggles with moderation. Like I'm moving house, moving my whole life in 6 weeks. I struggle to do anything in moderation, and this whole book is about how with like work, it's one extreme. It's either thank God it's Friday, the work is the worst thing ever, or the other side of like work is my passion and this is the only reason to be. And hers is like, what about this middle? Like work is fun. And this is like very interesting. And this, I think this is probably the only place in my life where I like actually live. Like I I like my job is great, but I have a very fulfilling, well-rounded life. And if my work was taken away, I think I'd be okay. I'd find other stuff to do. I don't think my life is tied to my job. I would occupy myself with other things. And I'm like, how do I like get my team to feel this? And so like I'm only like a little part of the way through this book, and I need to spend more time reading and stop distracting myself with other things. But I'm like, how do I like get my team to feel this? And there's just so much like anxiety and burnout and other things that we're going through, and change and fear, and oh my God, is the next layoff coming and things like that. And so I want to like, how do I get people to have more fun and joy in work? And so that was sort of one of the big takeaways. And then what else is in here that I'm sort of stuck in? I've written disco elevator in really big letters. I think that was also from the same thing. Yeah, lots of things about that. And yeah, there's lots of big words. Collective effervescence. And no, I think I've just written lots of like feelings and words from it. I've just taken like so many just like lots of human connection. And the other part of it was the people. And there were like people I was expecting to see, and then other people who I like wasn't expecting to see, which was really nice. I've been in a mastermind for I've been maybe here for like 5 months with Adam Rosendahl from Late Night Art with he created a mastermind with amazing people he's collected for experience design, and with J Jamie, who was on the stage at Responsive. She was used around culture at Pixar. She was in the group. She had a really amazing TED talk earlier in the year about why good people become bad bosses. It's really excellent. You should watch it. And then oh my God, my brain's going. This other person, oh my God, long day, guys, sorry. And it was the first time we'd actually all met in person, and it's been virtual, and we were all at Responsive, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, it was just like I had a really good time. And then I met a snake called Jake from Snake Farm. And so yeah, I had a great time. It was fun.
Oh, it's so good. Thanks for sharing, Casey. I'll share one other thing that like I still resonating that I'm looking to put into action is like the different formats of not just like traditional panels, but like the cool fireside chats, or like the session that Casey was just referencing with Jamie on it, which was like there were like four people on there, and they were just like having a chat. It wasn't like question answer like moderator. They like started talking, and my brain was immediately like, who's moderating this? Who's facilitating this? And then it was like, no one's moderating this or facilitating, Jessie. They're just talking. Like, how cool is this? And then like there was another one where there were four like badass women who work in like HR roles. And basically it went from like two of them on stage at a time. One was interviewing the other. And then once the interviewer was done, they like stepped off the stage. The interviewee became the interviewer, and then they brought on another person. So like they kind of like went in around interviewing each other, which I was like, that's such a cool, weird, unique way of um doing like facilitating this discussion. So I'm looking to like play a little bit more with those kinds of formats. Thanks for sharing those, Robin. But yeah, I'm like looking to experience or like put those into practice with content that I'm
Two
looking to run.
two quick things
Uh,
I dropped in.
yeah.
I published a newsletter a little while ago about 3 alternative event formats, one being the unconference, the other being the interview in the round that Jessie just described, and the third being a fishbowl. So if you want to figure out how to run your own alternative events or sessions that are not just a panel or not just a typical fireside, that's that. And then it was one of the sessions I worked really hard to make happen. And big shout out to everyone who was on that stage, because they were all professional CPOs talking about politics at their workplaces or previous workplaces. Please don't share it beyond this group because it's private. But wanted to drop it in as an example of an interview in the round and a very interesting topic in case you missed it.
Very
Or for
cool.
those of
Very
you who
cool.
didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
Hey, something really quickly.
Yeah.
Robin, I saw that the instructions in the fishbowl was to have a strong facilitator. What's interesting is I don't actually remember a facilitator for the fishbowl activity, which
Yeah,
I think just says a lot about how it was run. Who was were you
I
who was
was.
facilitating?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, it had to have been Robin, but I don't remember it because it was
that's great.
really
Yeah.
smooth. Yeah.
The highest praise I got from that. So a fishbowl, for those of you who aren't familiar, is essentially you've got between 3 and I would say 6 seats on stage, and some of them are occupied by speakers. So if you have 3 seats on stage, maybe 2 are occupied by speakers, but that third empty seat is open to attendees. And from the very beginning, you have an attendee take that seat and engage in conversation. So it's not just the Q&A at the end of a panel, it's from the very beginning. Attendees are a participant on stage, right? It adds to that level of porousness. And I think the highest praise that we got immediately afterwards is all 3 VCs who were in that session came up to me afterwards and said, I'm going to run this at my next event because the experience of being a speaker on stage was so interesting and compelling. Here's that session. It was with 3 VCs, Danielle Strachman, Virginie Raphael, and Eric Bond, who all invest in sort of future of work-facing startups. But a fishbowl, I think, is a very useful format to just take a panel, you remove 1 seat or add 2 new seats, and then it just shakes things. It shakes up the vibe, so it keeps it fresh every single moment for attendees and for speakers.
So freaking awesome. I can't wait to like actually experiment a little bit more with those even. Okay, we only have 10 minutes left. Would anyone be willing to share one like small tiny action that they are inspired to take from our chat? Maybe ideally before the end of the week. What's something that you can implement before the end of the week? It could be something small, is ideal. I like, for instance, I took something from Brie Groff's session actually, and she was like, ask people their favorite childhood song and then build like, so anyway, I asked my team, what's your favorite childhood song? And then I built a playlist for my team. And then like now when we have a team meeting, we rotate which song we're gonna have like a mini dance party to. And that was like so simple and so fun. And like something that you can easily take action on. So anyone willing to share something that they can take action on, whether you attended responsive conference or not? Would love to hear. Yeah, watch some of these videos. Yeah, that's great. I love that, Hank.
YouTube.
Yeah, Susan, hi.
Hi. Wow, I'm really appreciating hearing this stuff because it so reminds me of some training I went through in my 30s, and that was all about living and working and being in a state of possibility. And that is so inspiring and energizing for me to hear. And I kind of needed to hear that because I'm working in a healthcare system right now. It's a nonprofit, mostly funded from the federal government. And yeah, there's a lot of structure. There's a lot of we do things this way and that kind of stuff. So I'm loving hearing this. And I'm going to look into these alternative event formats because we're planning some things for 2026 where we'll be interviewing some new chief officers, and I'm really happy to hear about some creative ways to do that. And I'm going to pass that on to our VP of HR who will be running those.
Yes. Very cool. Thanks, Susan.
And tell her where I got them from.
Happy to spend 20 minutes catching up, Susan, and giving any feedback that would be useful to implement.
Oh, cool.
These. Yeah.
Thanks, Robin.
Love that. Anyone else want to share something they're willing to put into action? Casey's going to read 2 more chapters of Bree's book. Kaden and Hank are going to watch some videos. Christopher is registering for Responsive 2026.
Oh, so sweet.
I think mine is just adjusting, switching the way I view work in terms of like purpose led, but not everything. You know, just like an adjustment to how I think about the meaning of work and how I approach that.
Ooh, yes.
It's meta.
Yeah. I think my action, I'm excited to read what you just shared, Robin, about the 3 alternative event formats. And I want to like share something because I've led a handful of fishbowls now that I'm like, I want to talk more about that in my own content. So you've inspired me to take action on sharing what I've learned from being a facilitator on a non-traditional event format with the fishbowl. So I want to post something about that.
I think for me, connection is a key takeaway from Responsive. I've just reached out to everyone here on LinkedIn that I'm not already connected to, and
Nice.
yeah, I'm feeling very connective.
Oh,
Nice.
I love that.
I think there's something for me as I hear about, and I mean, obviously I've written a fair bit about alternative event formats just because I want to see fewer panels in the world ultimately. It's so easy to take one tiny action towards improving, whether that's a meeting, right? So Jessie, like having us draw something on our phones that then we can all see. Like, you didn't have to do that. I didn't know that was happening until literally 10 minutes before this call, right? And yet it made a difference, right? Use of emojis. I mean, like, oh my God, there's animated emojis in Zoom that I've never used before, right? Um, it's so easy to just take a thing that we're creating that is a gathering and make it slightly, like a tiny tweak different, and it shakes it up, right? Responsive
Yeah.
Conference 2025 was the best event I've ever produced. It was also the like 100th event, and like maybe I've done 24 events with more than 200 or 300 people, right? I've done 2 big conferences now, big for me, again, a 200 person, 300 person conference at the Oakland Museum. Like, I've got some iterations behind me, right? So that's what you see when it goes well. But like one iteration of like, cool, you're putting on a panel for a all team meeting, right? In person for 15 people. Can you just like add an empty seat, right? And then that's where the Q&A takes place, because that's better than just a typical panel with a Q&A at the end, right? Where people get used to asking questions by coming up on stage. It's just like one little thing that makes gatherings different actually makes a big difference. And we're
Yes.
all gathering people all the time, right? I mean, even around my dinner table, right? So
Yes.
yeah, it just matters. Gathering matters now more than ever. And it's really easy to improve the ways we typically gather.
I'm also feeling just like a reflection for Casey too, of just like, yeah, what if more people felt like, cool, if I left my job, I'll be all right. Like, what if we had, like, what if we did enough intentional work to like feel fulfilled through our outside work? I think there's so many people who are like channeling all their energy in that direction. I was talking with a friend and they were like, I was like, oh, I just got back from the gym. It was in the middle of the day. And they're like, must be nice. And I was like, literally anyone can go for a walk or to the gym in the middle of the day for the most part. Like, so I'm like, how are you going to give your organization your health and well-being too? Like, like giving up all your time and energy with your friends and family too? Like, so what if we had, if we were being fulfilled outside of work too? That's something that I'm taking away from all of this. Okay. Christopher mentioned this registering for Responsive 2026. We're going back, baby. You're welcome to scan this QR code. It'll take you to responsiveconference.com and you can use the discount code Culture First for 20% off the early discount. The early bird ticket sales go up at the end of this month. So if you want to join us for next year, definitely please do. We can send this out in the follow-up email for everyone as well. And then the Culture First community is collaborating with a lot of really cool organizations. So not only are we going back to Responsive Conference, next week is the Rethinkability Summit. We've partnered with these wonderful humans who they're putting on this 3-day free virtual summit all around disability and accessibility at work. And the organizers who are putting it on are doing it for free. The speakers who are going to be there are incredible. Dr. Akila Cadet is the main speaker there, Angela Howard, if you know her. Aubrey Blanche, who runs Equitable Design at Culture Amp. And then we have a handful of our chapter leads who are also speaking. Emily Goodson, AC Holmes, Teresa Fessenstein. They are all speakers at the Rethinkability Summit. So if you would like to join us next week, again, it's free, it's 3 days. Also, consider please making a donation to this organization because everyone who's putting it on is doing it for free. So I'm supporting the incredible humans who are putting this to work. Responsibly Human AI Summit. I know that Robin's also friends with Hung, who's putting this on. So if you want to join us, it's an all-day summit, December 5th. Which is a Friday, and it's all around AI and HR. And so if you know folks in the Bay Area or in like just even if they're like in outside of the Bay Area that would find this interesting and want to come in town for this, definitely share with them. But I'm very grateful to support them. I'm actually running a fishbowl with Craig Foreman at the Responsibly Human AI Summit. So I guess I'm putting that into action already as well. And then the last thing, I tell you what, we're partnered at this point. We're going back to Transform this year for the 3rd year in a row too, or next year, excuse me, March 2026. So if you'd like to join us for that, we just signed our partnership with them this week. So we're doing cool stuff. If you want to come hang out with us, there's a $200 off discount, and the price goes up on Friday. So we love supporting good people like Robin and Hung and Greer and Samara, who are doing incredible work with these conferences. So I hope you'll join us for that. Normally we do this thing called a clap out, but I was thinking we could like listen to Dancing Queen and have a little dance out, and then you could just leave whenever you want. I feel like that is the appropriate way to end our gathering today. So that's what we're gonna do, is that I'm gonna share my my sound. I'm